The Minnesota Vikings will host the 0-4 Detroit Lions at home this Sunday, 12 o'clock Central on Fox. Minnesota Vikings are 7.5-point favorites in this matchup, and 7.5-point favorites. I mean, that's good right there. If you're into gambling, I mean, hammer that over because Vikings should win by more than just one score in this matchup. But again, give the Detroit Lions some credit. I mean, they are 0-4, and they might have on paper one of the worst rosters in the NFL. However, they are a game-winning record-setting field goal away from having the exact same record as us. But if you're going to play that game, I mean, Vikings are a fumble that shouldn't have been called a fumble and a chip shot field goal away from being 3-1. So realistically, on paper, Minnesota Vikings are 1-3, Lions are 0-4, not where both of us want to be at this point in the season. Minnesota Vikings starting off by taking a look at the Wednesday injury report. Cam Dantzler and Harrison Hand have already been ruled out due to COVID. However, with that being said, they can still play. They are vaccinated, and after a couple negative tests, can still play this Sunday. And we would love to see Cameron Dantzler play with the Minnesota Vikings and start over Breland. But again, it is the Lions, so if he doesn't play, it's not like it's going to ruin our game, and Bashaud Breeland should still have a good game. Hopefully, he has a good game against the Lions. But again, I would love to see Cameron Dantzler get more playtime, and Harrison Hand, great depth piece on the secondary, and also a great special teamer. Talking about special teamers, Amir Smith-Marset once again did not practice with a toe injury. Amir Smith-Marset did miss last week, and he's our starting kick and punt returner right now, and missed last week. So I would expect we once again see Dede Westbrook and Amir Abdullah play as those special teams kick and punt returners for the Minnesota Vikings. Not a big loss there, but Amir Smith-Marset, I would like to continue to see him play on the special team return game. Big loss. Michael Pierce did not practice with an elbow injury. Michael Pierce is our starting nose tackle with the Minnesota Vikings, and we would love to see him play as he's that core run stopper. And what do the Lions love to do? They love to run. So if we do have Michael Pierce out there, that would be great. However, again, if Michael Pierce doesn't play, it's not going to ruin the Vikings game. We can play Dalvin Tomlinson on as a nose tackle, and if James Lynch can play, or Sheldon Richardson, we can play either of those guys at the 3 tech. So Michael Pierce, he might be a core player in this Vikings defense, but once again, we have great depth at the defensive line position, and we can see some of these players step up, like Armon Watts, like James Lynch, like Sheldon Richardson. Nick Vigil did not practice on Wednesdays with an ankle injury. Nick Vigil is questionable to play this Sunday's matchup, and we would love to see him play, as we don't have, unlike the defensive line, we don't have much depth at the linebacker position. Dalvin Cook did not practice Wednesday with an ankle injury once again. Dalvin Cook, big player, biggest player on this Vikings team. We don't need to rush him back. We rushed him back against the Cleveland Browns, and that was a mistake. He was not 100% healthy, so he did not look good on the field. Rest Dalvin Cook this game. If he's not 100%, you have to rest him. He is the easiest way the Vikings can win, is running through Dalvin Cook, especially against the Detroit Lions run-stopping defense. Dalvin Cook's the easiest way the Vikings can win this game. However, if he is not 100%, do not play Dalvin Cook. Let him rest. Throw Alexander Madison out there. Throw Amir Abdullah out there. And maybe A.J. Rose. We might see a little A.J. Rose action in there. And then Anthony Barr was a full participant in Wednesday's practice. Anthony Barr is back. Anthony Barr has missed the last 18 games with the Minnesota Vikings and has been a huge loss because Anthony Barr, he's that big player that we have been needing against some of these run defenses, because the Vikings on paper, our defensive line is great when it comes to stopping the run. It's those explosive plays that ruin us. Those explosive plays specifically, we are looking at our outside linebackers right now, Blake Lynch, Nick Vigil, and the other people who aren't really great tacklers. We're looking at everybody outside of Eric Hendricks because teams love to run on the outside against this Vikings defense, as the interior side of the line looks very strong, and that's why the Vikings are good on 3rd and 1. And then Dan Chisenau was a full participant in Wednesday's practice. Dan Chisenau, I'm not going to expect to see him play any offensive snaps. However, he's a great special teamer. He is fast. He is very agile when it comes to special teams, so I would like to see him play on special teams, maybe even throw him out as a returner too. And then taking a look at notable Lion injuries. So Lions, you think the Vikings have been bad at injuries? Maybe we have. The Lions have been far worse. The Lions have 12 players currently on IR, and we're not going to look at all the IR players, but there is some core players like Taylor Decker. I mean, they have starting wide receiver Tyrell Williams. They have their Jeff Okudah, their 2nd overall draft pick, Romeo Okwara. I mean, Frank Ragnow. They have many players on IR, 12 players. On top of that, Lions are suffering with more injuries here, with TJ Hawkinson being their core player on offense. Did not practice Wednesday with a knee injury. He is questionable to play during Sunday's matchup, and if the Lions want to win this game, they must rush TJ Hawkinson back, because outside of that, I mean, they have Darren Fells at tight end. Outside of that, all their tight ends are injured and not ready to play. So you really don't want Darren Fells to be your only tight end playing out there. We saw how that worked with the Texans, and there's no way it's going to work with the Lions. So they have to rush TJ Hawkinson back. Penei Sewell did not practice with an ankle injury. Penei Sewell is their starting left tackle as of right now, as Taylor Decker has been placed on IR. Penei Sewell, their first round draft pick, has been starting at left tackle, and it being an ankle injury, I wouldn't expect to see him play in this matchup. So maybe we can see DJ Wanham get his first sack of the season if he's not going up against Penei Sewell. Michael Brockers, their starting left defensive end, was limited during Wednesday's practice with a shoulder injury. Trey Flowers, their best pass rusher, was limited during Wednesday's practice with a knee injury. And then their two running backs. Like I said, Lions love to run. DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams have both been limited during one day's practice with a groin and hip injury and are expected to play this Sunday's matchup, as they should rush them back. However, again, they are questionable to play, but I would expect the Lions do actually rush DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, and TJ Hawkinson to play in this matchup, because that is how the Lions could win this game, is through the run. That is how the Lions can win this game. And then obviously TJ Hawkinson, our secondary, is not very good and will have problems blocking him. Maybe we can see Harrison Hand play one-on-one against TJ Hawkinson. I'd like to see that happen, because I don't want to see Mackenzie Alexander going up against this 6'6", speedy, great hands of a tight end, one of the best tight ends in the NFL. Hopefully the Minnesota Vikings and Mike Zimmer does not throw Mackenzie Alexander on them. So that wraps up the Lions' notable injuries and the Vikings Wednesday injury report. Now taking a look at the game. Digging deep into this, all eyes are on this Vikings defense. So far this year, the Vikings defense are 26th in yards allowed. So far this year, the Minnesota Vikings have allowed 135.5 rushing yards per game. 135.5. I thought the Vikings' run defense was going to be a lot better than this. And the biggest key factor here is in Anthony Barr coming back and him being that player that can really stop these explosive plays that we've allowed through the run game so far this season. And I would love to see Anthony Barr come back and be that run-stopping player that the Minnesota Vikings have been missing. I want to see a great game from this Vikings defense. I want to see a different story than I've seen every game so far this season. Vikings pass rush, and okay, as a whole, the Vikings have really improved from how they were last year. The Vikings last year were a very inexperienced defense who didn't understand the scheme. And also they didn't have the home field advantage with fans the entire season. So Minnesota Vikings defense, now we are loaded with veteran talent, loaded with star players, Eric Kendricks, Danielle Hunter, Harrison Smith. All I'm asking for is this Vikings defense to be able to stop this run game and hold Jared Goff. That's what I want to see here. I want to see this Vikings defense step up, and that's really what I'm going to be focusing on here. Now, you take a look at the other side of the ball. With or without Dalvin Cook, the Vikings offense is going to look great, because it has already so far this season. Against the Seattle Seahawks, we didn't have Dalvin Cook. Minnesota Vikings put the ball in Kirk Cousins' hands, and he won us the game. If we don't have Dalvin Cook, put the ball in Kirk Cousins' hands, and he will win us this game. The problem is with the pass rush. Okay, I might have just trashed on the Lions so far this episode, and when healthy, this Lions defense can really rush the passer off the edge with Trey Flowers, with Romeo Okwara. I mean, they also have Charles Harris, who the Lions drafted in the first round of 2017. They also have him, so they have these multiple edge rushers that they can really apply pressure to Kirk Cousins and make him make mistakes. Kirk Cousins needs to be able to make plays under pressure, and I believe he will. I believe he will, considering how he's played so far this season. Take away the Browns game, how he has played so far this season. He should be able to make plays under pressure, especially when you are going to have open receivers. I mean, Jefferson and Thielen and KJ Osborne, an excellent wide receiver trio right there, and they're going up against one of the worst secondaries in the NFL. I mean, their entire secondary is banked up. Outside of Tracy Walker, everybody looks like backups. Nobody looks like they should be on the field. Their inside linebackers on top of that are garbage. So Vikings with Alexander Madison, with Amir Abdullah, with AJ Rose, if they decide to activate him, Vikings can just run the ball up the middle the entire game as well. Just target the inside of the offensive line. Garrett Bradbury has done a great job blocking for running backs, not done a great job protecting for Kirk Cousins, but he's done a great job blocking for running backs. You just run the ball up the middle. That's another way the Vikings can win the game, and that will remove the pressure off of Kirk Cousins back here. Minnesota Vikings offense will have a great game. I'm confident that they will. Even though the Lions might have a pretty solid pass rush when it comes to rushing off of the edge, Vikings should perform here. Just because we have on paper, one of the best offenses in football. And you know where our weakest point on our offense is in Rashad Hill. That's where this next part comes into. Christian Darrisaw will be making his debut at left tackle in this game, and I'm so excited. So he won't be starting at left tackle. Minnesota Vikings will play Rashad Hill at left tackle. Now, Christian Darrisaw technically made his debut last week against the Cleveland Browns, where he did play a snap on special teams, but he will be making his offensive debut at left tackle for the Minnesota Vikings. Our first round draft pick, future starting left tackle, future blindside blocker for Kirk Cousins will be making his debut. I'd expect to see him play maybe second series or third series with the Minnesota Vikings offense. So you take a look at this. Christian Darrisaw's debut, he will be going up against Nick Williams, the left or right defensive end for the Detroit Lions. He will also be trying to protect Trey Flowers from getting to Kirk Cousins or Charles Harris. So great. I mean, Minnesota Vikings, this is a game you want to debut. I said it last week. I said Rashad Hill's not going to have a great game against Myles Garrett, but it's better than what you don't want to throw Christian Darrisaw at left tackle when his first matchup is going to be going up against the best right defensive end in the NFL. And now is when you want to rotate him in. Now is when you want to give him those offensive snaps. Now is when you want to transition into Christian Darrisaw as your starting left tackle, because that is why you drafted him. Minnesota Vikings cannot have Rashad Hill starting the rest of the season at left tackle. By the end of this game, my expectations are that Christian Darrisaw massively outperforms Rashad Hill. That is my expectations. And I think it's going to happen. Rashad Hill, I'm not a Rashad Hill hater. I might seem like I am. I love Rashad Hill. I think he's an excellent backup tackle. So this is what I'm probably most excited to see. I said I was going to look at the defense most in this matchup, but I'm really excited to see Christian Darrisaw. I'm stoked. Like this is the biggest excitement I have when the Vikings play Detroit Lions this week, where I have no doubt that the Vikings will win this game, but I am so excited to see what Christian Darrisaw can do at left tackle, because if he looks good, if he looks great, that is the difference maker for this Vikings team. Because we have some tough matchups after the bye week where we need a good left tackle. We need anybody better than Rashad Hill starting at left tackle right now. And Christian Darrisaw is our guy, and the Vikings will be rotating into the starting role, transitioning him into the starting role by the end of the season. Another thing I'm very excited to see is the return of Anthony Barr. Anthony Barr has missed the last 18 games with the Minnesota Vikings. Now, Anthony Barr, he's really what we need right now. He really is, because we need somebody who's a good tackler and can stop those explosive run plays that the Vikings have allowed all season. Vikings made Joe Mixon look like Barry Sanders. Vikings made Chris Carson look like Jim Brown. I mean, this Vikings defense has made these just okay running backs look like some of the league's best running backs they've ever seen. Joe Mixon is not as good as he looked against the Vikings defense. Chris Carson, same goes with him. Minnesota Vikings have to be able to stop these explosive plays. And if you remember last week, now Minnesota Vikings had a very tough matchup. I mean, now they're going up against DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams. Pretty good running back duo. I'll give it to them. I mean, their running back group is pretty good. It's nothing compared to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt like we played last week. So Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, Vikings defense did an okay job stopping them as a whole. But when it comes to the explosive plays, that's where the Vikings struggled. Was they just allowed those explosive plays, and that's why on the stat book, it looks like Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb dominated this Vikings defense, but it really is just in those explosive plays. So Anthony Barr should be able to look good. That's all I'm asking. Just be able to stop these running backs. He's an excellent tackler. Now, as of recently, when you take a look at the last time we saw Anthony Barr, maybe in the couple games of 2020, we saw him in 2019. I mean, the last memorable thing from Anthony Barr was him getting pancaked by Jimmy Garoppolo. Let that go. Let it go. Anthony Barr is an excellent tackler, and he has been in his career, taking away the last couple of years. Anthony Barr has been an excellent tackler and should be able to be one of those best see-ball, hit-ball linebackers, exactly what the Vikings need right now, and that is why the Vikings should be able to hold DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams to under 4.5 yards per carry. And now it's prediction time for this matchup. Minnesota Vikings bold prediction of the week. Kirk Cousins will rush for a touchdown. Kirktober is here. Dalvin Cook is out. The Minnesota Vikings will put the ball into Kirk Cousins' hands, and I believe he will perform in this matchup, as this is the Detroit Lions defense. Now, it's a little bit of a question of how he's going to play under pressure. With that being said, though, Kirk Cousins will obviously you can never say obviously with Kirk Cousins. I love the guy. but he's had some bad games against bad defenses. But he should look great in this matchup, and Kirk Cousins will rush for a touchdown. That is the bold prediction of the week. Kirk Cousins, every year so far with the Minnesota Vikings, has rushed for 1 touchdown all 3 years he's been with the team. So this is going to be the 1 touchdown he's going to rush for this season as well. He gets the yearly rushing touchdown, and I do believe it will be in this matchup. Although I don't understand why he doesn't run more. Us Vikings fans, we know that he's able to run with the ball. And I mean, we've seen it many times. He has great plays with his legs. He just doesn't often do that. So I think in this matchup, he will rush for a touchdown. I mean, with Washington, he rushed for 13 touchdowns in 3 seasons starting. So I don't know where that Kirk Cousins has been, that mobile quarterback that he was with Washington. He didn't bring that with the Minnesota Vikings, but it's okay because he's performed well so far this season. But I would love to see him use his legs. And for the final prediction of the week, Minnesota Vikings will obviously win this matchup 42-19. So pretty big blowout here. Minnesota Vikings offense will win us this game, getting us 42 points and moving the Vikings to 2-3 on the season. Going into next week's matchup, where they should be 3-3 after that, and going into the bye week, should have an even record. And then we can see the return of Dalvin Cook in week 8. And hopefully the second half of the season can be a lot better than it was so far this season so far. Minnesota Vikings will beat the Detroit Lions 42-19 and move to 2nd, or stay at 3rd in the division, and likely move to 2nd at the division after the game against Carolina Panthers. So taking a look at that, Minnesota Vikings will win this matchup, and that concludes for this week's episode, this week's preview of week 5 for the Minnesota Vikings, where they will host the Detroit Lions and absolutely obliterate them.